Welcome to Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel. Lee and Jay Greeson here to preview the weekend of SEC football games. We'll hit on a couple of national games of significance. We'll talk the coaching carousel, people with opinions about who coaches should hire, who may or may not be in positions of influence. We'll hit all kinds of stuff, Jay Greeson. But before we get to you, go ahead.
And opinions of people who should be making the hiring.
Yeah. Right. You were locked and loaded, but you're going to have to wait a minute because we got to thank a sponsor, and that's our friends at GAMETIME SIDEKICKS. Man, they make great stuff, including my 40-ounce water tumbler that I'm using this morning, officially licensed stainless steel drinkware. Every SEC school, 350 other universities, everything from stainless steel sippy cups, tumblers, 40-ounce bottles, and shaker cups. SE16 get you 20% off your entire order. Jay Greeson, let's start with the team that's not playing, LSU. Holy smokes. What a mess they have in Baton Rouge. And who is calling the shots there?
Well, we know who certainly is not. And that's Louisiana Governor Landry said point blank that Scott Woodward would not be making this hire, that it would be a committee, and even said in a 4-minute news pullout clip that maybe he'll get Donald Trump to make the hire. I personally thought Donald Trump was more renowned for firing people than hiring people. If you remember his ascension into our pop culture stratosphere of The Apprentice. But look, man, we are in a place, and not to go too deep off the rails here, but tangentially, we are in a place in a culture here. And this is a guy, I'm telling you, that I've written columns now for going on 2 decades on a variety of topics in and outside of sports. We're in a crazy place that we hear something, we instantly form our opinion, and then we dig in and put our backs against the wall and believe the other side of the opinion is false. I will say this. 2 things can be very diametrically opposite, but also true from what Governor Landry had to say. The idea of states paying these huge buyouts and coming up with a better contract system has merit. When he says something along the lines of he's tired of America rewarding failure, who's not? Especially when taxpayers have to foot the bill. Now, he's not as informed as all of our smart commenters here on Southeastern 16. They're not pulling the trigger on Brian Kelly unless they already have that $54 million collected from private donations that it's not coming. They're not going to, LSU's not going to have to cancel a volleyball game because they're paying Brian Kelly $54 million.
Yeah.
But his thought process of what contracts moving forward look like makes a ton of sense to all of us, because from Baton Rouge to New Orleans to Zachary City, these conversations are happening in Louisiana. Barbershops, diners, church pews, everywhere is talking about, oh my God, can you believe we just paid Brian Kelly $54 million to go away? Now, conversely, in the same 4 minutes, if you're making a ton of sense, you just really hurt your school's chance to hire somebody they really wanted to hire. Because who is that coach going to then be working for if Scott Woodward is not making the hiring? And he then went into a tangent rant about redoing, and this now, hey, again, not saying it's factually wrong, but you can talk about, there can be a whole lot of facts in your family that you don't want to lead a press conference with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he then goes on a rant about agents representing multiple college coaches, and that is true and worthy of a talking point, and even alluded to something that has affected Red Stick this year. Garrett Nussmeier and Brian Kelly have the same agent.
Yep.
So that overlap is now, I mean, you can't imagine, I know we've got some lawyers in here, but you can't imagine a whole lot of lawyers being able to represent the defendant and the plaintiff. So, look, Kenny Sexton's not even going to pick up a phone call from Red Stick after his rant. So he could be factually right about how things either should be or how we try to direct them into potentially being down the road. But he also can be detrimental to the nth degree about LSU in the here and now, about trying to find their next football coach who's going to be expected to win a national championship or at least play for one in 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, the optics that are a little crazy when you've got the governor coming out and saying those things. And, I think Scott Woodward's problem is I just don't think he's very well liked down there. It feels like to me. So I don't know, but he's done some great things. I mean, he's hired some great coaches, but the checkbook has gotten crazy. I mean, this is now the second, north of $50 million buyout that he's put his school in place to pay between here and A&M. And as many have said, it's not a school where the booster base is deep with billionaires and that type as other places. I think they said the buyout was paid by an anonymous donor. Was that correct?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Sam speculating it's the Raising Cane's guy. I think he's their richest of their boosters, and I'm not sure how big of a booster he is or is not. I don't know. I just know he's an LSU fan. I mean, by the way, Raising Cane's was doing did you see the Paul Skeens commercial on the MLB playoffs?
No, I did not.
Yeah, Skeens was doing a commercial for Raising Cane's for a goodwill thing they're doing. So, I would think he's somewhat invested. So, anyway,
have Hoosier pants in it?
I don't think it did.
What's the only commercial then on a regular rotation that didn't have her in some sort of tight fitting outfit?
That might have helped, but in this case, no dice. Anything else on the LSU mess? No. And by the way, I think we did a reaction on Sunday, and one of the things I had heard that afternoon is they could not decide if he was ready if they were going to move on from Brian Kelly, if they were going to wait on a new chancellor to fire Woodward and then fire Kelly and take care of all of it. I guess the Kelly meeting, from accounts I've heard, just did not go well. They did not see eye to eye, he and Woodward, on how to run the program and the hires, the firings to make or not make. And so here we are. And LSU, from what I understood, I think I've heard through the grapevine, they've got, I think, maybe somebody in mind for the next president, but I don't know who that is or when that's going to be.
A couple of quick ones, and I won't speechify as much as I just did because there's still a whole bunch of football in front of us. About LSU specifically, one, Ed Orgeron was on ESPN National Radio this week and said he would love to come back and even be a defensive line coach. And who he's been a defensive assistant for. Oh, yeah. In years past. And to the chat you put up there from Pooh Bear the Prophet, look, a third tangent of this from Governor Landry is, look, man, and I say this with nothing but this is what we do for a living. And I love how much we all care about sports. But when our elected officials decide to weigh in on sporting news and decision, 95% of the time, it is pandering to the constituencies. They've got far more important things to consider. Look up where Louisiana is in literacy and poverty and people who are food insecure. And if we really think that this is Governor Landry's best use of his time, then don't vote for him. I mean, nobody gives two rips. I will say this, one more. Brian Kemp, the governor of Georgia, took to Twitter after yesterday's press conference and sent out, Brian Kemp's an alumni of UGA. This is your official thank you, Kirby tweet. I'm putting you in this position.
That's bright.
It was funny.
Yeah, it is funny. I mean, and I guess the thing, like, you see a politician do that, you're like, okay, that's clearly political pandering. But to your point, he gets up and speaks about poverty or whatever problem is plaguing his state. It's not going to get 1% of the attention it gets when he says that. So I get it at the same time, even if it is a little gross. Are we ready to talk football games or anything else on your mind before we go there?
Well, there is one more that I think is big picture, because I don't want it to seem I'm duplicitous on some of these things.
You're what?
Duplicitous.
Okay.
Have double meaning or not going to talk about things. Because, look, Brian and I talk a whole lot of gambling on this show or on this platform. I loved that the NCAA actually let the adults in the room make the decision earlier this week to pull back their rule change that they were going to allow college athletes to bet on professional sports in states with legalized betting. Look, man, with that whole NBA thing, the appearance and the perception of bias or impropriety or, God forbid, game fixing has to be nipped in the bud every bit as much as the actual game fixing has to be nipped in the bud. Because if fans, the only thing that can really threaten the place of sports in our culture is if fans believe this is professional wrestling. And with the influence of gambling, and it's not going backwards because the money is coming out too fast to put those dollars back in the toothpaste tube, I actually think all athletes should not be able to gamble, and all members of athletic departments should not be able to gamble. Because if you want to nip this and re-galvanize the appearance, look, I don't want to take away freedoms for of-age Americans, and I don't view that lightly. But these people are making a lot of money, and they get a lot of privileges. And with those privileges, sometimes has to come sacrifice. So in that part of the conversation, that needs to be on the table too, because don't just do it to the of-age athletes. Look around and who all is in the coaching realms and how many friends they have potentially at the next level or in other sports. And I mean, look, man, this is a serious thing, and the NBA thing is a very serious thing, and we don't want to get too far off the rails. And I have speechified enough, man. Get us back into our MO here. Get us back into our go zone.
All right. Well, the go zone is the on-field games this weekend. Here is the way I've categorized these. We've got 6 SEC games this week. We've got 2 for each category. The first tier, and this is the order in which we will talk about the games. Playoff tier for both teams. That is Vanderbilt going to Texas, and then Oklahoma traveling to Tennessee. Then the playoff tier for one team. That is Florida under a new coach going to Georgia. Actually, that they're not going to Georgia. They're playing that one in Jacksonville. And then South Carolina going to Ole Miss. Obviously, Ole Miss playoff contention firmly within the Rebels' grasp. South Carolina just playing for pride at this point. And then games that matter for fans and maybe particularly coaches, Kentucky at Auburn, Mississippi State at Arkansas. Those are the games which we will talk about. I've also circled 7 games of potential national interest that we will maybe touch on if we find one or more of these interesting. Georgia Tech at NC State, Texas Tech at Kansas State, Miami at SMU, Utah at Cincinnati, Southern Cal at Nebraska, Penn State at Ohio State, and Indiana at Maryland. But most of our focus going to be on the SEC. So we'll start at the top. I've got Texas hosting Vanderbilt is the game of the week. I think Texas has not played a home game in 42 days by the time we get back to this point. Vanderbilt has spent its past 2 weekends at home after a bye week before going to Alabama the week before. So been almost a month since Vanderbilt has been on the road. This is a contrast in styles game with quarterbacks circled for different reasons, Jay Greeson.
Without question. It is, everybody know who the Pied Piper on the West End for the Commodores is. I mean, he's Captain Jack Sparrow in a lot of ways, and you want him behind the wheel because Diego Pavia makes every meaningful play in so many pressure situations. And then we got no clarity from the SEC injury report that Arch Manning being listed just as questionable and still put into the concussion protocol, which if you can still get Vandy only, I mean, right around that number is going to jump greatly if it turns out Michael Caldwell is going to start for the Longhorns. And yes, I know he threw a touchdown pass. And yes, every player on Texas's roster at some point in time was the best player on a football field from high school or beyond. So that, I mean, Texas doesn't recruit a whole lot of goofballs. Their backups to the backups are 4- and 5-star kids. But here's the thing, man. I mean, Texas, yes, been on the road. Texas escapes Lexington. Texas needs a game time punt return in the final 90 seconds to get to overtime to escape Starkville. And Vandy comes in there with every meaningful goal in front of them. And then, Chris, I can't help but take pause back. And if I can put on my coach motivator hat, this is an unbelievable opportunity for Steve Sarkisian to let the cameras in and take 90 seconds before the kickoff and go, boys, we started the year one in the country. We found our way to unranked. But every goal and every dream is still before us. It starts Saturday. And if we win out, there's no way they're going to keep us out of the playoff. Trust me when I tell you that. Because they'll only have one SEC loss. If they win out, and then they'll have beaten Vandy, top 10, one at Georgia, top 10, and beaten Texas A&M. They win out, they're 100% in the playoff with 2 losses. And
yeah.
So, look, every Texas dream is before it. And all that to be said, I think Vandy wins the football game.
Well, this is the rare game where Diego Pavia is not the quarterback in the spotlight this week. That's because the questions about Arch Manning, the concussion. And look, if I am, and I've talked to some people connected to that program this morning, that their thought is that Arch Manning will play.
I agree with that.
Also told that I don't think the Mannings are like overly involved, like calling the shots kind of people from what I'm told. So that's interesting. But look, if I'm the Manning family and I'm going back and watching what Vanderbilt did to Garrett Nussmeier 2 weeks ago, and knowing that your offensive line issues are pretty similar to a lot of LSU's. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier, I don't know how many times Vanderbilt got a hand on him or was close to him. But, hey, that's a concern anyway. And then you throw in coming off concussion 7 days later. I don't know, man. That's some concerning stuff to me if I'm Texas and if I'm the Manning family.
One important tangent to that is Arch moves a hell of a lot better than Garrett Nussmeier does. And
yeah.
And I would trust Sarkisian to stretch the pocket not only vertically but also horizontally and get him in places where it's not just coming directly up the field. But no, you're 100% right. I tell you what is the takeaway here. We reference all the hype frequently about Arch and Diego, and both of those guys are well-known guys in the college football theater. But I didn't think we would get to the day before Halloween, and I'm pretty certain in my soul Clark Lee's a better football coach than Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah, I mean, what a year it's been. Just for weird. I mean, this is the most interesting college football season in a long time, and this game being a prime example.
Point,
right?
Because I think in 3 weeks we're going to have a whole lot of people resting a whole lot of folks because they've already in their mind crossed the line. So it's turned the unbelievable drama of November into an unimaginable October.
Yeah. I was listening to the 3 Tech pod. Those guys do a fantastic job. If you're looking for a good college football pod that covers everybody, I recommend them. They're not huge, but they're great at what they do. They were talking about, is Texas actually better off if Matthew Caldwell plays? Maybe it changes the play calling, it changes the focus. But look, at the same time, I know his talking from people at Texas, he's got a reputation as a guy who can handle this spot. But he was a backup at Troy a year ago, Jay. So I don't know. That's a very different spot.
Is that also a not so veiled conversation about how mediocre Arch Manning's been? I mean, look, he lit him up in Starkville and had his best statistical game of the season before going out with a concussion. But Vandy's a hell of a lot better than Mississippi State is, especially on that side of the ball.
Yeah. I think keys to this one, turnovers, timely penalties, maybe defensive and special team scores. Both teams have done that this year. I mean, there's a lot of variables in this game. I still can't make up my mind what Texas is. Like, I think I pretty well know what Vanderbilt is. There's some gray area with how effective the offense is against an elite defense. But Texas, my goodness. I mean, defense wasn't giving up yards to anybody. Now it can't get off the field. Some of that's on the offense. Offense still has talent, but, other than one game last week where Arch went off for 350 or so, just offense hasn't gotten on track. So this one's a little bit of a mystery to me. The next one coming up is a little bit of a mystery to me, too, for different reasons. But before we talk about that one, that would be Tennessee and Oklahoma. We're going to remind you, we are brought to you by our friends at the Yearly Company, a Nashville-based fine jewelry brand built on tradition and designed for meaning. Each piece handcrafted from solid 14-karat gold and natural gemstones, made to measure for a perfect fit, backed by a lifetime guarantee. Because every Yearly Company bangle is custom sized, knowing your size is the most important first step before ordering. That is where our sizing kit comes in. It is the perfect place to start, especially for husbands who want to have sizes ready now so that shopping closer to the holidays is effortless. Code SE16KIT, KIT, gets you 100% off your sizing kit at checkout. Get your Christmas stuff done early. Don't worry about it. Go to our friends at the Yearly Company. They can take care of that for you. We're also brought to you by ROKFORM, which makes the world's strongest magnetic phone case. I use mine every day. I've dropped my phone numerous times. It is as if nothing ever happened. Also, use ROKFORM's vent clip. That is fantastic for your car. ROKFORM's products offer extreme protection, super strong magnets, Rock Lock secure mounting. SEC25 gets you 25% off your entire order. Also brought to you by HOVI Dry Goods. It is your new favorite hat. My Titans stink. My Titans hat does not stink. I wear it a lot. And you can get your favorite hat from HOVI too. They've got high quality headwear with a great fit and unique designs. Bad Beat, BADBAT, gets you 15% off your entire order. Jay Greeson, back at it. Let's get to Oklahoma, Tennessee. What stands out to you in this one? You're on mute. Hey, Jay, unmute yourself.
Sorry, I was letting you do your soliloquy, and I had a couple of coughs. Well, a few things stand out to me about Tennessee, Oklahoma, beyond even the head coaches being directly involved in opposite sides of the football. I mean, Josh Heupel is tremendous at scripting up, especially early, and Brent Venables is a big part of their defensive philosophy at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's defense looks a little dented after Ole Miss went there, and there's a whole different conversation. We have time at the end about the now watered and flowering war of words between Brent Venables and Lane Kiffin, because Lane Kiffin isn't going to stand for that kind of slander, and he is the 2025 version of Stephen Orr Spurrier, so he's going to bounce back at all of it. Look, I think there's going to be points scored here because it is a great Tennessee offense led by a guy who is a tremendous schemer and play caller, and a quarterback who, even though he's leading the SEC in passing efficiency and passing yards, is probably a little bit underrated right now in Joey Aguilar. Even though they got to play against a unbelievably talented Texas defense. Conversely, the Oklahoma offense, which is at times has struggled, and John Mateer did not play great against Ole Miss, but this Tennessee defense has given up a lot of big plays in their search to register big plays. And I appreciate that from Tennessee schematically, that they know they've got a high-powered offense. They know their defense is going to be on the field a lot. So how do we counteract that? We try to turn you over or tackle you behind the line of scrimmage, or make a big play to get you off the field. And if we give up a big play, we know our offense is going to counteract that. So I think this is a fascinating game of style contrast, but I expect Tennessee to play really well at night in Neyland.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different takes on who's got the edge in this one. I've heard people that make a good case for Oklahoma. I heard the same thing for Tennessee. The bottom line to me is I just get the feeling I trust Tennessee to make one more play right now, especially in Knoxville.
I think that is a heck of a lot more succinct in the way I described it, but also very astute.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the interesting angle, okay? What if John Mateer suddenly is healthy and look, I have no information here. I'm just throwing this out. And looks like the John Mateer we saw in September, then boy, do we really have a game.
If he does, then he's going to be SEC Player of the Week, because Centegia and a whole lot of those guys on the perimeter, Tennessee still down multiple cornerbacks, and Boo Carter has underwhelmed through the offseason controversies, getting back on the field. And now his snap count is down. Yeah. I don't know how good that Tennessee secondary will hold up.
Yeah. I guess the recipe to winning if you're Oklahoma is run the ball better, which has been an issue all year. You know, hopefully somebody other than John Mateer. Tennessee's defense against the rush has been pretty good other than the Arkansas game. It's really through the air where they've had more issues for reasons you've outlined. So anyway, have we run the course with this one?
I don't know, but without looking it up, I Bleed Orange just threw something out there, and they meant to say, interesting stat, guys. Last time Tennessee lost a home game other than Georgia was 2021.
Who would that have been, I wonder? Stat. Yeah, I mean, they don't lose that much in that place, and at night, I think it makes it tougher.
They're doing the dark mode game. I mean, now all the country at the same time in the overlap, because it's in the same window, is going to be watching Auburn, Kentucky, because, I mean, that game, you talk about the stakes there. Hey, losers got to walk home.
Yeah. What do you make of all the Tim Banks criticism? Just to me, that does not feel fair.
You're down your top two corners. I think I actually think that some of it makes holistic sense to be that aggressive defensively when you're that aggressive and that fast tempoed offensively with your defensive play calling, that you want sacks, that you want to get back off the field and get the ball back to your offense. Because look, in a perfect world, you scheme this up, your team goes down and scores in 90 seconds, 7-0. You make a big play, get the ball back, and it's 14-0. And now you're playing the exact type of game you want to play. It's a track meet, which Tennessee's going to win 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I don't get the criticism of that coaching staff. I mean, the one thing that I think is maybe kind of fair is they have gotten conservative in some weird spots. I mean, could have cost them the Mississippi State game. And I get that the numbers are not pretty. I'm not saying they got a great defense, but it's down 2 corners again at 400 yards and 31 points a game, 402 and 30.9 to be exact. But the number of plays they run, Jay, it's almost like playing a game with a 5th quarter, which inflates and it inflates the offensive stats too. But I don't know. I feel like I trust them more to win the game, and I think that's where you are too. But Oklahoma can make it interesting. Loser in this one, I think you kind of said. I think loser. Well, Oklahoma could lose one more and maybe have a shot, but would have to win out, which I find unlikely. Tennessee loses this one, I think they're done.
I think this is a complete elimination game for both schools, and this is redirecting the narrative a little bit on, because we've talked about Oklahoma's schedule and how difficult it was by comparison, but the logjam of teams that are now moving to the top of this thing, a 9-3 Oklahoma is now going to have a loss to Ole Miss. If they lose this one, they're going to have a loss to a Tennessee team who very well could be 10-2 as well. And you're going to have tiebreaker setbacks. And then you look around, and Virginia's got 1 loss. Georgia Tech's got no losses. Notre Dame almost assuredly is going to run the table, and their losses are to Miami and Texas A&M. And at 10-2, we know Notre Dame is going to win a whole lot of beauty pageants in that room where they don't let anybody in.
Well, here's my counterpoint, just hypothetically. Oklahoma loses tomorrow. Their losses would be to Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee. I think all those away from home. You'd have wins over Michigan, Auburn, Alabama, Missouri, LSU. I think Oklahoma might be the one exception. But, maybe I'm giving the committee too much credit. Remains to be seen.
Are we sure Ole Miss was in Oxford?
No, you're right. That was in Norman. My apologies. Still, pretty brutal schedule, no matter how you slice it.
Oh, absolutely. But it was more brutal at the beginning of the year before all the upheaval than, because if they had lost to Texas sitting at number 3 in the country, as opposed to giving Texas life in Red River, the perception and the narrative of Oklahoma's schedule, like a lot of teams in this league, has changed from Labor Day to Halloween.
Yeah, and hey, the flip side of that, Oklahoma could end up 6-6 also with that schedule. So that's a big. So I think, to me, if they're 9-3 with that schedule, they deserve an opportunity to be considered. Again, we'll see what everyone else does. I think that's really interesting. Against like a 10-1 Georgia Tech. I mean, your conversation could be fascinating there, but I think it's unlikely. I think them winning 3 of the next 4 or 4 of the next 4 seems to me like that's a lot to bite off with the way that offense has played lately. Speaking of tough schedules, Jay Greeson, the Florida Gators have Georgia in Jacksonville. I'm interested to see what Florida has under Billy Gonzalez. How much difference does that make under new management?
Well, I expect Florida to start fast. I expect, as an interim and being a wide receivers coach, look for an explosion and a heavy diet of Dallas Wilson early. And look, man, this just popped into my head, but this is a whole different tangent. I don't know if Billy Gonzalez wants to be part of the next Florida staff. I don't know if he's putting his hat in the ring, but Dallas Wilson is a bona fide next level dude. He is a dude. And here's the thing in this conversation moving forward. If he's tight with Billy Gonzalez, the next job Billy Gonzalez is going to look for is not only going to be about a resume of 2 decades being a really good position coach. Would you like to have a portal Dallas Wilson come along? Potentially.
Yeah.
So look for Dallas Wilson early and often. And if you're in a state that allows college football prop bets, go over and everything. But there's no way I see Florida winning this football game. And I'm going to tell you a little side story. Kirby has dominated Florida and Auburn because he hates Florida and Auburn because he was a very good football player at the University of Georgia. He was a freshman in college and on the field as a reserve free safety. When Steve Spurrier called a double reverse pass in Sanford Stadium to be the first school that ever put 50 on the board in Sanford Stadium as a visiting opponent. Kirby's going to do everything in his power to make certain he kicks the Gators when they're down. And if you can still get this game at 7 on FanDuel in a true neutral site that's 50-50, this is a multi-touchdown win for Georgia.
Yeah, and that offense has really put up some points and yards at times. 502 against Tennessee and 44, 510 and 43 against Ole Miss, 425 against Kentucky. I guess a little less overwhelming against Auburn. But, yeah, I mean, I think to me, Georgia had a week off. Florida had a week off. I think you put it stronger than me. Like, in this day and age, we're seeing upsets every week. I wouldn't say there's no way Florida beats Georgia, but I'm also not sitting here debating who I'd pick either.
Well, I will give you this stat because I want to speak your language right here, Cyborg Lee, in the numerics category. Kirby's won 7 of the last 8. Margin of victory in those wins, north of 22 points on average.
Yeah. What's that look like the last?
Only one of them has been a 1-score game.
Okay. Which was when?
It was 24-17 when Florida covered for scored late for a backdoor cover. Would have been, was that 18 maybe?
I don't know. The point I was going to make is that Georgia, I don't know, 2017 to 22-ish, whenever Brock Bowers walked out the door, I guess that would have been 23. And Georgia now are a little different animals.
Yeah, but they love their quarterback more than they do Carson Beck, even with
and they should. He's played great. He's a sleeper Heisman guy, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, no reason to pick Florida, but I do wonder. I mean, Florida's talented, got a lot of experience. You get some guys healthy. You never know in this game. We'll find out. Next up, we've got South Carolina at Ole Miss. I don't know. Carolina felt like put it all on the line last week, got its heart broken. This feels like it could be a slaughter for
it could be. Year. It could be, without question. But it also feels like a week after an emotional road win for Ole Miss, I don't like any part of this game from the gambling aspect because it's so unpredictable. If you wanted to include Ole Miss in a money line parlay with a Georgia and a couple others potentially, I get that, but Lenora Sellers is still the best player on the field, even if he did fumble. And South Carolina defensively does a lot of things that Ole Miss did defensively last year as far as turning you over and creating big defensive plays that a lot of times lead to points. So, I mean, I really believe Lane Kiffin and crew are in survive and advance. Are they the better football team? Absolutely. But Alabama was a better football team too, and they were damn lucky. And I know it was in Williams-Brice, and that place is a hell of a lot harder place to play than most people realize. But they don't call it no Beamer for nothing. I mean, that guy keeps his kids invested, and I think that's an interesting point here. 2 of the 3 coaches we saw fired so far in the SEC, their teams quit on them in the last game they coached. The Hogs quit on Pittman against Notre Dame. In the second half in Red Stick last week against Texas A&M was they might as well have been playing Archbishop Malloy or some high school team out of New Orleans Parish. But
yeah, that was ugly.
It was.
All around. Sidelines, play, all of it.
Beamer's boys, they play hard every week for him.
Well, they do. Here's your problem. How many times has South Carolina hit 350 yards of total offense this season?
Once.
That's one too many. And you're going to need that if you're going to play with Lane Kiffin.
No, I agree with that. No, and you're 100% right. There's no way I'm picking South Carolina, but I get it.
I mean, it is a weird spot. Ole Miss has, had a week off and struggled to beat Washington State, which is not as good as South Carolina. So you've got a point there. You've seen a little precedent, but I don't know. Nothing in me makes me feel good about Carolina's chances, having watched both teams play.
Well,
but I would have said the same thing a week ago.
To your point, and we may have talked about it in one of our earlier previews, it is really hard to craft a vision of. I can see how South Carolina will compete. They've got a first-round NFL quarterback. They've got a first-round NFL wide receiver on the perimeter. Their defense and special teams have found ways to turn turnovers into points. I just don't see a path to South Carolina winning. I was talking about it from a betting.
The points. Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, I get that. I mean, the thing is, there's not a ton of plays in their games. The defense has been pretty good. They don't give up a ton of points. I mean, offense doesn't help them out at all. This is kind of amazing. But Carolina's given up more than 30 points once all year. That was 31 to Vanderbilt. That's kind of gotten lost in the misery of the Gamecock season. So they just can't move the ball. And a common theme in this league is when you can't move the ball, you usually don't win. So, because there's a lot of teams in that category, it feels like. Okay, games that matter for fans and coaches. Kentucky and Auburn, losing coach goes home.
Yes.
After Saturday? Okay.
Well, the homestanding team's coach will be fired on Sunday. The visiting team will return to Lexington and announce a mutual parting of ways, and Mark Stoops will finish the year. If I feel comfortable saying that's how I foresee the Sunday breakdown, and then we'll reconvene and hash it out with everybody. And Sam, you may be right. They keep him till the end of the year, but I think they can meet in the middle. I mean, Stoops sees the writing on the wall. He knows what this is. And then you let him get his flowers. You negotiate down the buyout. He's made, what's he made? $80 million?
A lot.
Hey, this is a great stat right here that JD WDE brought up. Auburn defense hasn't let anyone score more than 24 points.
Yeah, he beat me to the punch. I feel weird being the guy to do this, but I call it as I see it. That stat would scare the pants off me.
All right.
If I'm anybody playing Auburn, because that gives you a chance against anybody.
I'm about to go layered stat madness on you, Cyborg Lee. There are 4 teams in the country who have not allowed 24 points to an opponent, more than 24 points to an opponent this year. Can you name any of the other 3?
Ask the question again.
There are 4 teams, including Auburn, that have not allowed more than 24 points to any opponent this football season.
Teams other than Auburn that haven't allowed.
Teams other than Auburn.
In the country.
In the nationally. Well,
okay.
In big boy football, I can't speak for FCS or D2 or whatever else.
Ohio State
is 1.
SEC.
Don't waste your time.
No other SEC. I was trying to think if there was anybody. Indiana?
Indiana's 2.
Michigan?
Miami is 3.
Oh, okay.
So the 3 teams we just went through are a combined 21-1. Auburn is 4-4.
Man, just
wrap your head around that, and then remember that Hugh Freeze is supposed to be an offensive guru.
Yeah,
and he's got one of the elite defenses in America.
Yeah, and LSU was there too until it fell apart 2 weeks ago. I mean, is Auburn? Hey, this is kind of the okay. Hugh Freeze has kind of lived under a cloud of doom there for a while, and it's not unfair, but and I know Arkansas and Kentucky are no great shakes, but sometimes you just need stuff to go your way.
You do.
I mean, you win this one after winning Arkansas, you got a new lease on life. You can say, hey, look, we got a chance to go 8-4. We can spoil Vanderbilt's playoff hopes if it beats Texas, or even if it doesn't, Vanderbilt could still go. You got a chance to wreck Alabama's season, or at least put a dent in it at the end of the year. There's a lot for Auburn to play for if it beats Kentucky, and I just have a hard time seeing Kentucky winning that game because Kentucky turns it over, number one, and number two, the defense has suddenly leaked a lot.
No, I completely agree with you. This is a tough spot, which is going to magnify. There are so many there. It's a difficult spot because there feels like a new sense of renewed hope, at least around how Auburn can put lipsticks on the pig that has been this offensive debacle. But you lose to Kentucky, and I don't even know if Hugh Freeze makes it to Sunday school before getting fired.
I was going to say to the parking lot. Yeah, that would be embarrassing. Like, at least the other losses are to good teams. That would not be the case here.
I mean, Cutter Boley has struggled on the road, turned it over for touchdowns. Auburn offensively has just been maniacal. I actually, the way I foresee this, and it's one of the reasons I was adamant in the last week or two about it was time to pull the trigger on Hugh Freeze, because I really can see this being a very similar November to what Billy Napier had, especially if he goes Ashton Daniels and makes the quarterback change and it injects life. And to then my question, as always being the cynical journalist, why the hell did he not get more snaps to begin with?
I've had the same question. Next one, and I started to say nobody cares, but I don't think that's true. Mississippi State can still get to a bowl game. I don't think it's a likely path. It would have to beat one of, as I look to my right or left to where the schedule is, Georgia, Missouri on the road, and Ole Miss at home. But Ole Miss is a rivalry game. You never know. That game's always been interesting. So this is a game where State get a win. You got a chance at a bowl. Arkansas, I don't know what Arkansas is playing for other than pride.
Well, and you got to start asking yourself how many of these guys, and there are a couple of games like this, how many of these guys are, and they're going to be more moving forward into November. How many of these top tier players are going to start making business decisions when all your goals are dashed? You don't even know about, and I'm not talking about portal, I'm talking about draft. I mean, look, I could understand, and I think Arkansas played inspired with the possibility that Petrino might be the guy, because the AD said it when the firing happened, and he's going to be the interim, but we also want him to be a candidate. That experiment has now apparently been run by Beaker from the Muppets. So, I mean, it is that that experiment has crashed.
The name I didn't see coming.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, if you can't pull out a good Muppet reference, then you obviously don't have kids. But and I'll advise your tip. We have had some questions about some in-game moments for Jeff Lebby, and in his some decision making, but he has Mississippi State playing better and playing hard, and that carries a lot of weight with me. I am all over Mississippi State plus 4.5 here, and I would even be on them on the money line.
Yeah, I might be too. I'm trying to think if they've been blown out against anybody. I mean, took Tennessee to overtime,
and
took Texas to overtime.
Had a whole lot of paths to win that game.
Yeah, Florida was right there. They've had one stinker of a game. That was Texas A&M and just a bad matchup. But other than that, they've been right there. And look, if I tell you Mississippi State before the season that you're going to be in every game heading into Halloween, I think you're pretty happy with that. Let's not change the goalpost on Jeff Lebby.
No. The Holly says we're Statler Waldorf. I'm way too young to be either Statler or Waldorf. This is the bitter old man. Right. That's how we roll around here. Well, I can speechify, though. You want me to go off on a tangent? I know.
If you like.
I know. No,
Okay. I don't know what interesting we can add to that game.
Well, I'm just happy that Holly didn't say that you're Kermit and I Miss Piggy, to be quite honest.
that would make it awkward.
It would. Not there's anything wrong with
it. I'm leaving that one alone. Okay. National games of playoff interest. Some of these you have to squint a little bit, but Georgia Tech at NC State, Texas Tech at Kansas State, Miami at SMU, Utah at Cincinnati, USC at Nebraska, Penn State at Ohio State, Indiana at Maryland. What catches your eye here?
The first thing that catches my eye is be very careful, Mario Cristobal. This is the first. This is a fun stat. I tried to come because I knew I was sitting down with Chris today, and I wanted to come with some stats. This is the first game the Miami Hurricanes have played all year outside the state of Florida.
Wow.
And it's going to be 48 degrees and misting.
Okay. And SMU got some players.
They do. I'm also real curious, though. Rhett Lashley's name's been bandied about a whole lot.
That's true.
That's not a good thing for the inner workings of your program.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're SEC, here's your rooting guide. You want NC State to beat Georgia Tech, Kansas State to beat Texas Tech, SMU to beat Miami, all three of those teams at home. Utah, I think, could still get in the playoff with 2 losses, but it would be a stretch. At Cincinnati, which is, I think, a 1-loss team. Southern Cal at Nebraska. Nebraska winning that one, I think, would put Southern Cal's playoff hopes to bed. Penn State at Ohio State is potentially interesting. You remember?
No, that's going to be a curb stomping.
Okay, you think so?
Ohio
I mean, well, I guess no Drew Aller.
Beat their eyes out.
Well, I'm thinking last year the Michigan game, right?
Right.
And then Indiana at Maryland, that's, speaking of curb stompings, that'll probably be one, but Maryland's been sneaky good at times. How many of those, okay, it's 7 games. How many of those end in upsets? You don't have to tell me who. Just pick a number.
All right. Tech doesn't. I actually think Miami escapes, but I love the 12.5. Indiana's not upset. Ohio State's not upset. Texas Tech, maybe, because you got a bunch of mercenaries. I'll tell you the sneaky one that has my eye is Cincinnati at Utah.
Is Cincinnati the visiting team?
Yes, Cincinnati.
Okay, I thought it was a home team. Yeah. That's trouble for Cincinnati.
I actually think Cincinnati's got the best player on the field.
Oh, okay.
Utah's
very good.
Is a dude and leads the nation in total touchdowns.
Okay, fair enough. I just think Utah is so big and physical, but
they are, but I don't know how many upsets. There are going to be some scares, like a game that should matter, or a team that should matter to every SEC fan with playoff aspirations for their program in the league. You need to be rooting against Notre Dame every single week, because Notre Dame at 10-2 is going to take a playoff spot. They're not going to lose this week because who do they have? Boston College, maybe?
Who we think talking again?
Notre Dame.
Let's see. Notre Dame's got, bye this week. I'm sorry, bye last week. Boston College on the road this week. Navy at home. Pitt on the road. Syracuse on the road. Stanford on the road. Is that 3 straight road games to end? Have I got that right?
Well, who knows where one of them may be. And if one of them's at a quote-unquote at and they're playing it in Baltimore or who knows, Notre Dame travels like few others. I mean, dear Lord. That was actually quite punny. I mean, a Notre Dame and then a dear Lord reference. I mean,
that was.
Yeah, it really was. That was actually kind of an incidental pun and a dad joke.
Syracuse game at home today. At home, by the way, for Notre Dame. Not that it really matters.
I agree with Sam that the only serious speed bump for Notre Dame would be at Pitt. 2 weeks from Saturday.
Yeah. I mean, unless you get caught in one of those weird games with Navy where you turn it over and, they 4-yard rush you to death. But anyway.
Aren't they like 47-1 over the last 50 years against Navy?
Probably. Yeah. Navy is unbeaten. I don't know if it's that good, but it's unbeaten. So,
well, the Horvath kid at quarterback for Navy. Look, man, I say this about high school football teams a lot. If you've got a whole lot of kids on your roster as a high school football coach, who I'm okay if those guys are dating my daughter, you're not going to be real good at the end of this. I mean, no, you need a whole lot of dudes that you're going, no. Because this game is violent and fast, and I'm sorry, that's just where we are.
That is true.
Navy's got a whole lot of dudes that, in the end, I'd be happy if they married my daughter.
Yeah. Sam mentioned altitude for Utah. He's right about that. So, have you ever been to Salt Lake, by the way?
Yeah, I was actually. It's a funny story. I was in the Salt Lake City airport. We went to a whole bunch of national parks out west. And this was back when I was doing the radio show in Chattanooga, and we were getting on a connecting flight. And I'm talking because I talk all the time, clearly. And some guy like turns and pauses and like looks around, and my wife goes, "I think that guy knows you." And I go, "I don't know him." And he walks over, and I'm still talking, yada, yada, yada. He goes, "Are you Jay Greeson?" And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "I hear you on the radio all the time. Man, I love your show." And it's amazing how your voice can connect to people who you've never met. It's one of the great things about radio.
That's
truly
true.
About doing radio, that folks can, that just the different connection level is awesome.
Yeah. You occasionally get those out. I've had a few from the podcast. The best one, or from the show, best one was a guy I went to church with. We're at a men's function. He just gives me this strange look. He's like, "You're that guy from Southeastern 16." You never know. Every now and then you get.
I've had one from the podcast.
Yeah,
it was in a Middle Eastern fellow working behind I'm really not trying to go Archie Bunker on you right here. It was a Middle Eastern fella.
That's good to know before you continue.
Who goes? He like rings in my purchase, and I said, "I'm gonna get some gas," and he goes, he like double took me and went, "Your picks suck." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "You're on the podcast at Southeastern 16. You had the Vols, and the Vols lost." And I'm going, "Oh my word! I'm getting heckled by a guy buying a pack of cookies and getting some gas." Man, strange life we've crafted for ourselves.
It is, and yeah. Speaking of which, gotta get on with life myself. But man, fun show. Can't wait for Saturday's games. I mean, it's not as big a slate as we've seen, but every time we say that, you get one or two out of nowhere that change the college football landscape, and I'm guessing that's what we get Saturday. All right, you reading the comments?
No, I'm good. I just saw that I scared Sam when he starts with Middle Eastern.
Right, that's the one I was reading too. All right, anyway. Yeah, God bless you guys. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your weekend. For Jay Greeson, I'm Chris Lee. We are Southeastern 16, presented by FanDuel.